Namaskar. In today's class, I'm taking up the poem Fire and Ice, class 10, from the textbook First Flight. Okay, it looks as if it's a very simple poem, and in fact, it is a very simple poem, there is no doubt about it, but it carries a lot of meaning in it. And the line by line explanation of this poem doesn't require much, but to discuss the central theme of the poem itself is a very big task to understand this poem. And now we are going to begin it. And this will be the order that we are going to be following. If you want, you can copy it down also, no problem. Now, first we are going to deal with what is the importance of this poem. Now, Fire and Ice, this poem, written by Robert Frost, is one of his most well-known poems and certainly very powerful ones. This poem is famous for two things. The first is its simplicity, yet delivering a very biting message which makes you stop and think and offers you a very different perspective of everything. So, why is this poem important? Because it's delivering a very powerful, scathing message for mankind. Now, let's look at the poem. You could open your textbooks because I'm keeping the slide open in front. And okay, you don't even have to copy it. I'll give it in the description box. Okay, I'll change it to the poem so that you have no problems. Now, some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. Now, in the first two lines itself, you can see a disagreement. You can see a disagreement because few people are saying fire and few are saying ice. So there is no agreement as to how the world is going to come to an end. Now, this disagreement part also forms the central theme of this poem. Now, if you take fire and ice, you can take them in two senses. One, you can take them in natural sense. That is fire is fire and ice is ice. And you could relate it to the natural disasters. For example, fire here means heat. So rising of global temperatures, climate warming and all that stuff, and mankind is going to perish because of global warming. That is one sense. Or you can say that ice age will come in and everything will perish like the dinosaurs and all those perished. I'm not going to be discussing all those. I won't be discussing that part because that is a very simple part. And you can always write, okay, in that sense, because it's very rare in that sense that they ask you questions in the exam. We have to go into the deeper meaning where we will be treating fire and ice as symbols. Symbolism is the main aspect of this. Okay, now, some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. So here, the use of the words fire and ice are metaphoric. Metaphors. Why? They are basically you want to say that fire will kill everyone. It's a harbinger of death. And you see, even there is a contrast. The contrast here is ice is exactly the opposite of fire. So you could be killed by the two extremes. They could cause immense damage. That is the juxtaposition here. that you could be killed by extreme temperatures. Now, the extreme temperatures could be cold, could be heat. But are we actually talking about heat and cold here? No, we are not talking about heat and cold here. Here, fire does not mean fire, and ice does not mean ice. Clear? We will later on in the poem, we will be explaining these points very clearly. Let me first explain the poem in its very simplest sense. And it says, from what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. So here Frost is providing his own opinion now. Robert Frost is providing his own opinion. He says that fire is desire, or desire is just like fire. Now, what are the desires which are burning? When I say burning, burning means which have the capacity to harm others. This word others is very important here. Here, fire is being used as a metaphor for strong, consuming, all encompassing emotions, your desires. If your desires are kept in check, then there is no harm. You can desire any small things. Okay, fine. I would like to buy an iPhone. I would like to, go to Shimla. I would like to visit that. These are all small desires. But what about the big desires? If it's to give you an analogy, when fire is small, for example, candle. Let's take an analogy. Candle. When you light a candle, what does it give you? It shows you the way. It's small. If you're feeling cold, you light a little big, you could say a small bonfire. It warms you. But what happens if that fire starts raging around? Certain death. This is the same case with desires. As long as you keep them in check, you're cool, you're okay, nothing will happen. But the moment you let your desires consume you, then you become ruthless. Simple examples of desires consuming you. All the wars that have taken place so far. Best example, Alexander the Great coming all the way from Greece right down to India just because of his desire to conquer the world. That is fire. That is fire. That is the fire which actually harms. Had he not died here, had he not fallen sick here, how many people did he kill? It was almost the end of mankind. So all these wars, you can see even now, Russia-Ukraine war is going on. What is that? That is desire, fire. It can come to an end. And the best part is this poem was written in 1920. And in 1920, the World War I had just come to an end. So it even symbolizes that, because when the World War I was raging, lakhs and lakhs of people were killed. That is the power of fire. It doesn't harm you that much as it harms others. It kills them. And Frost admits here, from what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. Frost admits, confesses that he too, being a human being, was overcome with desires at many a time. So he says, I have tasted desire, so I know what desire is like. And that is why I hold with those who favor fire. What is the meaning of I hold with those? Here, hold with means I side by those. I stand by those people. I favor those. I'm on the side of the people who favor fire. Clear? So, what have we, learned so far? It says very clearly that some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. So he says that people may have their disagreement, but I am free to give my opinion. I am free to give my opinion, and my opinion is that the world will come to an end because of fire. Now, this could have been, he could have had this opinion for two reasons. And mind you, this question has been asked. He could have had this opinion for two reasons. One, he himself has tasted desire because of being a human being. He must have succumbed to it at some point of time. And number two, World War I had come to an end at that time. So he had seen fire. So he stands by it. Here he's equating fire with desire. So what are those desires which are akin to fire, they're equal with fire? You can have passion, you can have greed, you can have rage, you can have lust. It could be anything. You see, whenever you are overcome by passion or greed or rage means anger, and lust, others are harmed. They have done nothing to you, yet you go out and harm them. That is fire. That is fire. So here, this why I'm explaining this in detail is because after this, I'm going to be speaking right the opposite of this. I'm going to be speaking right the opposite of this. And once a person lets his fire consume him, that means take control of him, become his master, then it's the end of mankind. What happens today if Russia, is striking Ukraine, China is trying to strike Taiwan, and all the stuff that is going on? India, Pakistan constantly, they're firing. How many things are going on? What if this developed into World War III? It would have been the end of mankind, because now we have nuclear weapons. See what happened to Japan in 1945. You can quote all these examples that I'm giving you when you want to substantiate your point. It is fire. World War II came to an end because of, the two nuclear bombs which were dropped on Japan. 1945, August 6 and August 9. Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, the world can come to an end. But, now here comes the next most important part. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. Now, this is the stanza from which most of your questions will come, especially, but if it had to perish twice. This line is a very important line, and it has to be understood in its context. Now, from line 5, that's but if it had to perish twice, the poet now speaks about ice. He is now making a comparison between fire and ice. Now, fire is a kind of desire which is rage, anger, lust, greed, passion, where you go out and kill people. What is ice? It is exactly the opposite of fire. So what could be the opposite of it? Indifference, hatred, coldness. Indifference, hatred, coldness, inaction, not doing anything. That can also kill the world. I'm not talking about the ice age and all that stuff. Fire goes and burns the entire thing. It takes action. But ice is inaction. I'll give you a very small example and you will understand. How many times it has happened? We have seen that if an accident happens on the road, what do people do? They pull out their mobile phones and they start videoing the entire stuff. Action. Who goes to help the victim? That is inaction. Tomorrow, what will happen? If a man or mankind is consumed by ice, coldness, indifference, a man is walking down the road, he sees another person lying on the road, suffering maybe for want of water or food, and he simply turns his face and he walks away. Inaction, coldness, indifference, exactly the opposite of fire. There, fire will go and kill the other person. Here, you are killing the other person by not doing anything. This iceness, as cold as ice, this is also enough to bring mankind to an end. What will happen if everybody starts becoming indifferent to the difficulties faced by others? Man is a social animal. You cannot survive alone on this earth all by yourself like animals. Even animals live in herds and help each other. But this is what mankind is moving towards. This is what Frost is hinting at. So what does Frost say? That the world can come to an end by fire. That means one person goes out and kills another. One person goes out and destroys another. Mankind comes to an end. On the other hand, one person is lying, dying, and you are doing nothing. You're letting him die. Tomorrow you will be in that condition. Somebody else will see you and walk away. So their action is killing. Fire is killing by action. Here, ice is killing by inaction. Okay. So I hope you are able to get the concept of fire and ice very clearly now. Okay. Now, here we will discuss. Here, many more things are there which are very important in this second stanza. Now, let's talk about the central themes. From what I have spoken so far, you can easily understand that the central themes of this poem are desires and hatred, fire and ice, symbolism, destruction, duality of human nature, I'll be explaining this, duality of human nature and moral reflection. Now, let's first take up desires and hatred. I've spoken about this at length when I was explaining this poem. Desires, fire. Hatred, inaction. Not doing anything. Hating the other person so much that marta hai to mare. I don't give a damn. That is the first theme. Second, whatever way you apply, it is going to end in destruction. So the central theme of the poem, why it is destruction also? Because it doesn't matter how the world comes to an end. The point is it is coming to an end. That is why destruction. Now, when you talk about duality of human nature, a human being is capable of being both intense as well as extremely cold at the same time. This is what we are today. Anybody points a finger at you and you go outright and slap him. Nobody comes to the aid of that person. Coldness, fire. This is the duality of human nature. When you are harmed, you develop intense fire. When somebody else is being harmed, you become ice. at that time. This is the duality of human nature. This is what Frost is pointing out. And this leads us to moral reflection. Don't you think it is high time that we looked into ourselves and reflected on us, that what we are doing is right or wrong? No, we don't do that. We don't do that. And Frost wants you to do that. Frost wants you to do that. He wants, don't be fire, don't be ice in limited quantities, or sorry, I shouldn't be using the word quantities. Yeah, in limited levels, they are excellent servants. A candle can light your way, and an air conditioner can cool you in the room, or a chilled drink. But remember, the mortuary is always cold. So here, Frost wants you to reflect on yourself and say so you can say that the central theme of this entire thing is, don't let your emotions, your desires overcome you. Keep a check on them. And he says, I have experienced desires, fire, and I know, if you look in, if you look at the first stanza, that it says, from what I have tasted of desire. It's his personal experience. And at the same time, on the other hand, he also confesses in the second stanza, I think I know enough of hate. So he has experienced both. This conflict that arose in him, is the result of this, is the inspiration behind this poem, Fire and Ice. Is it clear? I hope you've got everything clear right up to now. And here, there is one more thing which I have to, talk about here. This word, but if it had to perish twice. Now, this is a line which is very often misinterpreted. This is a line which is very often misinterpreted. Now, understand this line carefully and you will understand. How many words do we have? Only one. How many words do we have? Only one. So you can destroy the word only once. You cannot destroy it twice. Clear? Now, what does he say? But if it had to perish twice, it means the world. Now, if he gives you a hypothetical situation. He gives you a hypothetical situation. Imagine that there are two worlds. There are two worlds. You could kill one with fire and you could kill one with ice, thereby proving that both fire and ice are capable of doing the job. They are capable of doing the job. So, since there is only one world, if you kill it by ice, you would say, oh, it was our fault. It was, we shouldn't have been so much cold. Fire wouldn't have done, this much harm as our coldness did. There would have been an argument. Let alone this point, when everybody is dead, there is going to be no one to argue. Let's leave that point. I'm just explaining it to you. And had the world been destroyed by fire, then the supporters of cold would have come and said, oh, you went to that extent of fire. Had you behaved with a little coldness, this wouldn't have occurred. There would have been a constant argument between the two, which is stronger, fire or ice. So Frost says that if the earth had to perish twice, that means you had two earths, go destroy one, using fire, and go destroy the other using ice, and you will get the same result, total destruction. In other words, this line says that fire equals with ice and ice equals with fire. There is no difference between the two. Both are capable of doing anything. They can be stopped only when they are controlled, limited. This is the message of this poem, and this is what he says here also. If you look at the lines, but if the world had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate. Hate is ice, cold. To say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. That is the meaning of this line. I think you will have to watch this. You'll have to replay this portion 4 or 5 times to get the full impact of what I have said just now. But here, did you notice one thing? Now, this question can be asked here. In the first stanza, he is talking about fire and all that, and totally. In the second stanza, he is talking about ice. But don't you see the lines? I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great. Don't you think he's making the situation a little, he's not taking it a little seriously when he say, yeah, that is also great. Like you say that, fine, I need this. And I need, say, this phone. The other person says, I'm sorry, this is not available. Yeah, even this will do. So there is no seriousness involved. There is no seriousness involved. So here, Frost's tone appears to be a little on the lighter note when talking about a serious subject. So if a question is asked that, don't you think that Frost has dealt with this poem in a very casual manner, then you will have to quote this line to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. You will have to start off with, he deals with the situation very seriously, but in the end, yes, he uses a lighter tone. He uses a lighter tone that is probably to lessen the impact on the reader, so that he doesn't become pessimistic and all that stuff. Oh my God, what's going to happen now? That could probably be a reason, but be sure that you quote these lines in the exam. Clear? And this here, there is here one more thing also. But if you analyze these lines carefully, to say that for destruction, ice is also great. Now, here he is not giving any personal opinion. First, he said, I favor those who are with fire. But here he hasn't offered his personal opinion. So in the first stanza, Frost appears to be associated with the cause. He uses the word favor fire. I hold with those who favor fire. But he doesn't say here that I also favor those, who use ice. Here he says in a very detached way, yeah, ice is also great. This word also reflects that he is not very into it. he is not very associated with it, but he has presented both sides of the coin. Okay, so when you are asked a question about these lines, remember what I have taught you now. And so that's the reason why I have written that the tone of the poem is what? Oh, I haven't shown it. Okay. The tone of the poem is bleak. Yes, it is bleak. It is not presenting a rosy picture. Yeah, things are going to be fine. We all are going to die. It is pessimistic. Yes, there is no optimism. It is contemplative. It makes you think. It has made him think. Contemplative. You have to contemplate. You have to contemplate on yourself also. You have to look into your inner self and see who you are. And it's detached also at the same time. The word, yeah, it is also great. You will have to quote this, line when you are asked a question about this. Is it clear? And I've explained this also, and you can see the rhyme scheme is ABA, ABC, BCB. And one more thing, this poem has 9 lines. It has been written in enjambment. When I was teaching you my mother at 66, in that also I told you that these were the thoughts that were flowing out of the author, Kamala Das, and that is why enjambment was used. You remember the meaning? Do you know this poetic device, enjambment, where one sentence runs into 2 lines? That is enjambment. Wait, I'll pull down the poetic devices for you. Yes, you can see the poetic devices now. Okay. Now, here it says, why this is an enjambment? Because the poet, Robert Frost, is pouring his heart out or his thoughts in a conversational manner. Some say it will end in fire, some say in ice, but how much I know of fire, and you see, it looks like a conversation going on. It doesn't look as if it is being written in a very rhyming form. That is why the figure of speech, you can even be asked this question, why has the poet used the figure of speech enjambment? Then you have to know the answer to it. Okay, next, after this, we have fire and ice. Personification is very clear. Why? Because they are capable of destruction. Fire can destroy. Human-like qualities attributed to fire and the same attributed to ice. Personification is very clear. Symbolism is very clear in fire and ice. Why? Because when you say fire, what are you exactly referring to fire? No, you are in fact referring to those intense emotions that you have, greed, lust, passion, and all that stuff. So here fire is symbolic of those actions, and ice is quite the opposite. It talks about hatred, it talks about coldness, it talks about apathy, it talks about indifference. So symbolism is very important here. Now look at this line, some say the world will end in fire. The moment you read this line, an image is formed in your mind, so imagery is there. Then some say, sa, alliteration, clear? In the next line, some say the world will end, now read both the lines together. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice, anaphora. Anaphora is a figure of speech where 2 or more consecutive lines begin with the same word. So in the first line, you have some say. In the second line also, you have some say. This figure of speech is known as anaphora. But if this occurs in the middle of a sentence, then it is not known as anaphora, then it is called repetition. And if if two sentences end in the same words, then that is known as epiphora. Okay. Next, look at the words world will, alliteration, and here, this line, I hold with those who favor fire. O, 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 O. The vowel sound O is being repeated. Figure of speech, assonance, favor fire, alliteration. And now look at this line. To say that for destruction, ice is also great. Sa, 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 sa. This is consonants. A consonant sound is being repeated. S is a consonant. So this figure of speech is known as consonants. Clear? I have given you important questions of this. You could read them in the description box. And as usual, please don't play this video fast. Thank you and good luck. Have any doubts? Have any questions? Post it in the comments box or email. You can even email them to me and a reply is assured. Good luck. God bless you.